Hello, Matt, Aborted Soul. I'm going to make a video because I want to uh, say a couple of things or share something with you. And you don't have to make a video response, you can just do comments. I know that you're trying to stay away from this and you don't want to get addicted and have to leave. Um, but I think this article kind of touches on what I'm trying to say here. And I know it's not coming out real clear because it's difficult to talk about something that's not real clear. I mean, it's fresh, it's new. Basically what you're talking about is something that was theorized beginning with Newton and some laws of absolutes. And I guess I'm always leaving the door open for that absolute not to be there, because we're this small little speck on a small little speck in a very huge universe. And for us to say that we have the answer is pretty arrogant. As a human race, it's pretty arrogant to say that. And so I always leave the door open. I mean, when the scientists come back, and I'm into astronomy, I like astronomy a lot. Space just totally intrigues me. And I think why space intrigues me is the mystery of it. And I think our consciousness, what that is, where it comes from, the mystery of that is so profound, of the things that we don't know. We know we think, we know we reason, we know we have the ability to look at the world in a logical way. And given that, that should always leave us open for discovering new things. And I think the question of consciousness, or the question of spirit or soul or any of that, is still wide open. It's difficult to close the door on the possibilities, the probabilities of things being there that we just don't see, that we don't know. The unknown force. And that's what I'm talking about. But anyway, I want to read a couple of paragraphs here, and then I would love to get your response on this, and just to kind of find out where you are. I'm sure you may have touched on it before, but it's basically called the quantum consciousness. And if you have touched on it before and I haven't seen it in one of your videos, I apologize. You could just point to that video. You can just put in comments, look at this video, and I give my take on it, and that'll be cool. Okay? So I just want to read a couple of things here and then get your take on what it's saying. And I would love to invite anybody else out there that feels that they have knowledge in this area to jump in. I know Gary, Burn Victim 77, you have to have some thoughts on quantum consciousness. You just have to. There still remains the problem of our consciousness and its relationship to our material form, the mind-brain problem. Behavioral psychologists such as Skinner tried to reduce this to one level, the material brain, by viewing the mental or consciousness events from the outside as being merely stimulus-response loops. This simplistic view works fine for basic reflex actions. I itch, therefore I scratch. But dissolves into absurdity when applied to any real act of the creative intellect or artistic imagination. Skinner's determinism collapses when confronted with trying to explain the creative source of our consciousness revealing itself in an artist at work, or a mathematician discovering through his thinking a new property of an abstract mathematical system. The psychologist attempts to reduce the mind-brain problem to a merely material one of neurophysiology obviously fail. The idea that consciousness is merely a secretion or manifestation of a complex net of electrical impulses working within the mass of cells in our brain is now discredited. The advocates of this view are strongly motivated by a desire to reduce the world to one level, to get rid of the necessity for consciousness, mind, or spirit as a real facet of the world. This materialistic determinism, in which everything in the world, including the phenomena of consciousness, can be reduced to simple interactions on a physical chemical level, belongs really to the 19th century scientific landscape. 19th century science was founded upon a Newtonian absolute physics, which provided a description of the world as an interplay of forces obeying immutable laws and following a predetermined pattern. This is the billiard ball view of the world, one in which, provided we are given the initial state of the system, or the layout of the balls on the table, and the exact trajectory, momentum, and other parameters of the cue ball, etc., then theoretically the exact layout after each interaction can be precisely calculated to absolute precision. All could be reduced to the determinate interplay of matter obeying the immutable laws of physics. The concept of the spiritual was unnecessary. Even mind was dispensable, and God, of course, had no place in this scheme of things. This comfortably solid Newtonian worldview of the materialist has, however, been entirely undermined by the new physics of the 20th century, and in particular through quantum theory. Physicists investigating the properties of subatomic matter found that the deterministic Newtonian absolutism broke down at the foundation level of matter. An element of probability had to be introduced into the physicist's calculations, and each subatomic event was in itself inherently unpredictable. One could only ascribe a probability to the outcome. The simple billiard ball model collapsed at the subatomic level. For if the billiard table was intended as a picture of a small region of space on the atomic scale, and each ball was to be a particle, or an electron, proton, neutron, etc., then physicists came to realize that this model could not represent reality on that level. For in quantum theory, one could not define the position and momentum of a particle both at the same moment. As soon as we establish the parameters of motion of a body, its position is uncertain and can only be described mathematically as a wave of probability. Our billiard table dissolved into a fluid, ever-moving, undulating surface, with each ball at one moment focused to a point, then at another, dissolving and spreading itself out over an area of the space of the table. Trying to play billiards at this subatomic level was rather difficult. So I'm going to move through the article a little bit. It discusses the properties of quantum theory, and I think that's the part that you probably don't want to get into, and that's not what I'm really trying to do here. I'm just trying to say there is something out there that's new, that's different, that's unique, and we're not really sure what it is. So I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs here, and then I'll be done. Some people, when faced with this picture of reality, find comfort in dismissing the quantum world as having little to do with the real world of appearances. We do not live within the subatomic level, after all. However, it does spill out into our outer world. Most of the various electronic devices of the past decades rely on the quantum tunneling effect in transistors and silicon chips. The revolution in quantum physics has begun to influence the life sciences, and biologists and botanists are beginning to come up against quantum events as the basis of living systems. In the structure of complex molecules in the living tissues and membranes of cells, for example, when we look at the blue of the sky, we are looking at a phenomena only recently understood through quantum theory. Although the quantum picture of reality might seem strange indeed, I believe the picture it presents of the foundations of the material world, the ever-flowing sea of forces, metamorphosing and interacting through the medium of virtual or quantum messenger particles, has certain parallels with the nature of our consciousness. I believe that if we try to examine the nature of our consciousness, we will find at its basis it exhibits quantum-like qualities. Seen from a distant, large-scale, and external perspective, we seem to be able to structure our consciousness in an exact and precise way, articulating thoughts and linking them together into long chains of arguments and intricate structures. Our consciousness can build complex images through its activity and seems to have all the qualities of predictability and solidity. The consciousness of a talented architect is capable of designing and holding within itself an image of large, solid structures, such as great cathedrals or public buildings. A mathematician is capable of inwardly picturing an abstract mathematical system, deriving its properties from a set of axioms. A solo cellist is able to hold the whole musical structure of an Elgar cello concerto or Bach's cello suites in his or her consciousness when preparing for performance. In this sense, our consciousness might appear as an ordered and deterministic structure, capable of behaving like and being explicable in the same terms as other large-scale structures in the world. However, this is not so. For if we, through introspection, try to examine the way in which we are conscious, in a sense to look at the atoms of our consciousness, this regular structure disappears. Our consciousness does not actually work in such an ordered way. We only nurture an illusion if we try to hold to the view that our consciousness is at root an ordered deterministic structure. True, we can create the large-scale designs of the architect, the abstract mathematical systems, a cello concerto, but anyone who has built such structures within their consciousness knows that this is not achieved by a linear, deterministic route. I think what this article is implying is that perhaps those of us, and I don't know, I don't know if you do art, I don't know if you do music. I know Gary does music, it's pretty interesting, but I don't know if Gary does music in a deterministic way, that he knows exactly what the music is going to be as he's writing it or as he's playing it. I have always created my art in a random, spontaneous fashion. When I start a canvas, I have no idea what's going to be there. As I work on that canvas, I've always said that it talks to me. Now, that might be a very elementary way to look at it, and I understand that. I understand to just say that, oh, well, God told me to do that. That is so elementary. That's primitive. What I'm saying is, let's take the next step. Do not dismiss consciousness as something that is, as said in that article, deterministic, that you can predict it, that you can always predict it, because I will wager you're wrong. You cannot predict the next piece of artwork that's going to come from my hand. You might be able to predict the material I use. You might be able to predict my leaning towards this color or that color, or that I'm going to do organic shapes or I'm going to do geometric shapes based on patterns of the past, of what I've done in the past. But to tell me what that image is going to be is impossible. That is determined at a different level than something that's deterministic. And I don't know if that is going to clear anything up or not. So I'm not saying spirit in a big sky daddy way. I'm saying spirit in a conscious way. And I think being an artist, someone who experiences that all the time and teaches creativity to kids, and I'm sorry, you said I hope, or you said something to the effect that I'm trying, you said something to the effect that I'm that you hope that I'm not influencing others. Well, I've taught school for 17 years and taught kids creativity. Sorry, I've already influenced people, so and part of that experience that I've had for the past 17 years of teaching this subject that's how I've arrived at some, not conclusions, but questions. Always question. Save your conclusions for when you're on your deathbed, my friend. That's where your conclusions will be founded. Okay? Anyway, if you want to keep discussing it, we'll keep discussing it. If you have made up your mind, then that's cool. I mean, I respect you for where you are. You're young. By the time you get to my age, hopefully there'll be new books to read, new studies to read, and there'll be more knowledge. As we go, there will be more knowledge. Science is fluid. Take care.